The suicide note contained only 7 words. "My silence killed him. Alexander, please speak." 9 years later, Alexander Reed would finally understand what his dead brother meant, and when he did, his voice would echo around the world. Nobody could have predicted what happened that November morning. A royal guard broke the most sacred tradition in British history, ending a quiet that had lasted longer than nations. And in that instant, the world held its breath. This wasn't just a story's ending, it was humanity's awakening. London's autumn mist clung to everything like forgotten memories. The bronze statue of Queen Victoria seemed to shiver in the cold air. November's icy breath whistled through the city streets, making pedestrians pull their coats tighter. On Buckingham Palace's marble steps, morning dew glittered like scattered diamonds. And there, motionless as carved stone, stood Major Alexander Reed. Each dawn brought the same ritual: 5:30 alarm, ice-cold shower shocking his system awake, mirror reflection showing a face he barely recognized anymore, red uniform pressed to perfection, every brass button catching early light, boots polished to mirror shine. This wasn't vanity or obsession with perfection. This was survival. Because when the routine faltered, the ghosts came calling. But here's what I'm curious about. What city and country are you watching this from right now? Drop your location in the comments, because this story is about to challenge everything you think you know about standing up for others. The morning felt wrong from the start. Alexander sensed it in ways that defied explanation. Wind patterns had shifted. Bird songs ceased abruptly. Even tourist energy felt charged with anticipation. Nature itself seemed to whisper warnings. 11:47 and 23 seconds. The moment branded permanently into memory. 5 figures emerged from the crowd like predators separating from a herd. Ages 22 to 28. The leader stood tallest, disheveled blonde hair catching sunlight, eyes glazed with alcohol and malice. His followers hung on every word, mimicking gestures, feeding off his aggression. 4,756 days of duty had sharpened Alexander's instincts to razor precision. Danger radiated from this group like heat from flame. Their energy contained something feral and starving, as if they'd been hunting for the perfect target to unleash their venom upon. "Check out this museum piece," one sneered, pointing directly at Alexander. "Real soldier or fancy mannequin?" "Ha ha ha ha! Let's find out!" Another laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. Alexander recognized the game immediately. "Look at this freak show! Can't tell if it's human or robot. Maybe just some actor getting paid to stand around?" Laughter erupted from the group, but Alexander's trained hearing caught undertones that chilled his blood. Hunger for confrontation, appetite for causing pain. The same predatory instinct he'd observed in documentary footage of pack hunters selecting vulnerable prey. "This thing doesn't react," observed another, waving hands inches from Alexander's face. "Probably malfunctioned. Someone should call tech support." Malfunction. The word hit deeper than intended, because there had been nights when Alexander felt exactly that way. Broken, defective, especially during those dark months after losing Thomas. Physical contact came next. Someone poked his shoulder. Is this even real, or just some elaborate fake? Every muscle in Alexander's body coiled like compressed springs. Regulations were absolute. No response to provocation, no acknowledgement of harassment, no breaking of protocol under any circumstances. Then, everything changed. Movement in his peripheral vision. A graceful figure navigating through tourist clusters with careful steps. Mid-20s perhaps, chestnut hair catching afternoon light as it moved like silk in the breeze. Understated elegance in jeans and cream sweater. Vintage leather satchel across one shoulder. A guidebook clutched in delicate hands. But Alexander's experienced gaze read deeper signs. The way she constantly scanned surroundings. How she maintained awareness of exit routes. The slight tension in her shoulders, suggesting someone accustomed to vigilance. Every movement calculated for self-preservation. 13 years of observation had taught Alexander to read human nature like others read books. This woman possessed something special. Quiet strength of someone who'd learned survival the hard way. Resilience mixed with vulnerability, and underneath it all, an unmistakable determination to live fully despite past wounds. She paused to admire the palace architecture, wonder lighting her features like a child discovering magic. Yet even in that moment of joy, she remained alert, ready, as if danger might strike without warning. A voice inside Alexander's mind screamed with unusual urgency, "This woman is in terrible danger." But duty demanded immobility. Royal guards don't move, don't speak, don't intervene. These rules had governed behavior for over 3 centuries. Unbreakable. What about conscience, though? What about the promises made to dying brothers? Thomas's final words echoed through memory. "Someday, Alexander, someone will need your protection. What will you choose then?" You know what breaks my heart? In some places around the world, Emma would be celebrated for her courage to live authentically. In others, she'd be criminalized just for existing. I'm genuinely curious. In your country, your community, how are transgender people treated? Because what's about to happen to Emma happens to real people every single. The predatory group had noticed Emma too. Alexander recognized that look from nature documentaries, the exact moment when wolves select their target from the herd.
Well, well, well. Look what wandered into our neighborhood.
The leader's voice carried poisonous amusement.
Boys, we've got ourselves something interesting here.
Emma froze mid-step, slowly turned. The terror that flashed across her face struck Alexander like physical violence. He'd seen that exact expression before, on Thomas's face, during their final conversation.
Come here, sweetheart,
called one of the pack, false friendliness coding genuine threat.
Just want to ask a few innocent questions.
Emma's instincts kicked in immediately. Step back, scan for escape routes. But the group was already positioning themselves strategically. This wasn't their first hunt. Experience showed in their coordination.
Where are you going so fast?
The leader's smile turned predatory.
We're just curious neighbors wanting to know more about you. Nothing wrong with that, right?
Please, Emma's voice barely registered above a whisper. I'm not bothering anyone, just leave me alone.
Leave you alone? You're out here among decent people. We've got a right to know what you're about. This is our city.
Agreement rumbled through the group.
Exactly.
Another voice added.
We deserve answers. Decent.
The most aggressive member stepped forward, disgust twisting his features.
There's nothing decent about this. It's sick, unnatural, an abomination.
The word hit Alexander like an explosion. Sick. Time fractured. Reality tilted. That single word transported him back 9 years to a family dinner table. His father's cold, merciless voice.
This is sickness, Alexander. Our family name won't be tainted by such perversion. You will not defend this behavior.
Thomas, 24 years old when the family expelled him. Brilliant, artistic, kind-hearted Thomas, who painted watercolors and played guitar and made everyone laugh until they were declared damaged goods. And Alexander? Alexander had remained seated, silent, complicit in abandonment. Their last meeting replayed in agonizing detail. Thomas's eyes bright with unshed tears, voice thick with betrayal.
I'm still your brother, Alexander. I always will be. But you chose them over me. You chose their hate over my love.
Thomas, I couldn't. Yes, you could have. You chose not to. Remember this moment, brother. Remember that staying quiet sometimes commits murder. And someday, you'll understand the price of that choice. Thomas died alone at 28. Winter night, empty apartment, heart broken beyond repair. His final note contained only 7 words. My silence killed him. Alexander, please speak. The past collided with present as rough hands grabbed Emma's arm. So what are you really? The aggressive pack member's grip tightened. Time to find out what's hiding under all this pretense. Emma's scream cut through London air like breaking glass. Stop! Please! I haven't hurt anyone! Haven't hurt anyone? The leader's laughter held no warmth. Your very existence is harmful. Normal people shouldn't have to see this. History pivoted on that instant. Alexander's 4,757 days of sacred duty shattered like crystal. Thomas's voice whispered across time. Now, Alexander, speak now. Motion came slowly, deliberately. like breaking free from deep water, his head turned toward the confrontation. First movement in over a decade of service. Eyes locked onto the group. 13 years of accumulated authority focusing into a single, blazing stare. And then, impossibly, Alexander Reed spoke. "Release that woman immediately." His voice carried such command that birds stopped singing. Tourists froze mid-stride. Even London traffic seemed to quiet. Because royal guards simply do not speak. Not ever. Phones materialized instantly. Recording began. History was being made in real time. What did you just say?" The pack leader stammered, alcohol courage evaporating. You're not supposed to." Alexander rose to full height, 6 feet 2 inches of trained military bearing casting shadow over the cowering group. Red uniform blazed like flame in autumn sunlight. Brass buttons caught and scattered light like scattered coins. "You will step away from that lady. Now." Command, not request, not suggestion. An order backed by centuries of tradition and absolute authority. "Who do you think you are?" Bluster failed to hide growing fear in the leader's voice. "This isn't your business. You're just decoration."
"I am protector of this palace."
Alexander's words carried arch coldness.
"And that woman is now under my personal protection."
"Woman?" Someone laughed nervously. "Are you blind? That's obviously a man." Alexander's gaze intensified. Fire burned behind ice-blue eyes. "I see a human being. Like you. Like me. Someone deserving dignity, respect, and the fundamental right to exist without harassment. Your inability to see humanity doesn't diminish hers." Pause. Let the words sink in. "I have stood on this exact spot for 13 years, Alexander continued, voice rising so the entire courtyard could hear. "Witnessed thousands of people from every possible background, rich and poor, young and old, happy and heartbroken. Every race, every faith, every walk of life." His eyes swept over each group member individually. "And I've learned one absolute truth. Humanity isn't measured by who you are. It's measured by how you treat others, by the compassion in your heart, by the courage you show when others need protection." Step forward. Closing distance. "You gentlemen are failing that test spectacularly. The real sickness here," Alexander pointed directly at them, "isn't this brave woman living her authentic life. It's the hate poisoning your hearts. The cruelty you mistake for strength, the cowardice that drives you to attack someone alone and vulnerable." Respectful quiet had settled over the gathering crowd. This wasn't mere intervention. This was testimony, witness, truth spoken to power. "Tell me," Alexander addressed Emma directly while keeping the group in sight, "what crime have you committed? What terrible offense justifies this existing, being yourself, seeking happiness like every other human being?" Passionate, she's exploring London, appreciating beauty, living her life. You're terrorizing her for sport. Which behavior seems more human to you? The pack was crumbling. Phones recorded everything. Social media would destroy them within hours. Their hunt had become their exposure. "We're leaving," one muttered, panic replacing aggression. The leader tried one final show of bravado. "This isn't over." "Yes," Alexander said with absolute finality, "it is. And if you approach this lady again, you'll answer to me. And I promise you, that conversation will be far less civilized." They scattered, predators, fleeing a superior force. Can I be honest with you for a second? When I first heard this story, I wondered, would I have done what Alexander did? Would you? It's easy to say yes from behind a screen, but when you're face to face with real hatred, real violence against someone just for being transgender, that's when you discover who you really are. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between staying safe or protecting someone else? Alexander turned to Emma. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling too. "Thank you," she whispered. Nobody's ever stood up for me like that." "I apologize," Alexander said, genuine regret in his voice. I should have acted sooner. I failed someone before when they needed protection. Couldn't fail again. Failed who?
Brother Thomas. Someone as brave as you, as worthy of love and protection as you. But when his moment came, I chose tradition over family, duty over humanity, and it cost him everything. Emma's hand found his, warm, real, human connection after years of isolation. Her touch carried the weight of shared understanding. Survivor recognizing survivor. What happened to him? My silence killed him. When our family rejected him, when society turned its back, when the world demanded he hide who he was, I said nothing. I stood by and watched hatred consume someone I loved. He needed one voice to speak for him, and I failed to provide it. Alexander's voice grew stronger, more determined. But you spoke today. You chose differently today. I chose you, Alexander said simply. I chose humanity over duty. I chose love over law. I chose what Thomas would have wanted me to choose. Alexander smiled for the first time in 13 years. What's your name? Emma Thompson. And you've given me something I'd forgotten I could have. What's that? Hope. The knowledge that someone will stand up, that I'm not alone in this world.
You're never alone, Alexander promised. Not while I'm standing here. That evening, video footage circled the globe faster than wildfire. Hashtag Royal Guard Hero trended worldwide within hours. Millions watched in amazement. Thousands shared with emotional comment. Messages poured in from every continent, every language, every walk of life. This is what courage looks like in the modern world. Finally, someone chose love over law, humanity over protocol. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear red uniforms and stand perfectly still until the moment demands action. 324 years of tradition broken, for all the right reason. This is how change happened. Faith in humanity restored. One voice can change everything. News outlets picked up the story immediately. Interview requests flooded in, documentary filmmakers called. Publishers offered book deals. The world wanted to understand how 13 years of duty could culminate in this single moment of defiance. But Alexander knew none of this media frenzy. At home in his small flat, he sat quietly with Thomas's photograph, speaking words that should have been said years earlier. I found my voice, brother. I remembered what you taught me about standing up for others. I'll never lose it again. The next morning, Alexander returned to his post. Everything had changed. Children waved enthusiastically. Adults nodded with respect. Tourists approached with reverence rather than curiosity. Emma visited regularly, bringing friends who needed to know that guardians existed. Other LGBTQ+ individuals, anyone who had felt marginalized. They came to see the man who chose humanity over hierarchy. Alexander became a symbol. Parents brought children to teach lessons about courage. Tour guides included his story. The palace steps became a pilgrimage site for anyone seeking proof that one voice could matter. Each evening, Alexander spoke to Thomas's photograph with gratitude rather than guilt. I understand now. You needed me to help change the world, one voice at a time. Alexander still stands guard today, protecting hope itself. A living reminder that rules serve people, not the reverse. Every visitor carries home a question. When your Emma appears, will you be ready to be Alexander? Because sometimes shattering silence creates the most beautiful sound. And sometimes standing up is the most important thing you can do while standing still. Direct. What's your answer? Let me know in the comments. Proud. Thomas would have been proud.